Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Beyond Ideas podcast. My name is Jorge Surya and I am your host for today's episode. Today we are gonna talk about relationships. How cool is that? And especially we are gonna talk about yes, I still don't know the title of the episode, but it's gonna be something about like when someone has doubts about their relation, when someone is questioning should they be with this person or not. So somewhere about doubts and relations and I guess what to do with it or how to analyze and of course doubts in relations because I have never met a person in my life who has ever had a doubt in their relation or yeah, I mean, no one ever had a doubt in their relation, right? It's quite a strange thing to find someone who doubts, should I be with this person or not? Yeah, obviously it's quite I try to use some irony there. I think it's quite common to be in a relationship and or a partnership and doubt whether you are with the right person, whether there is future in the relationship, whether, all these sort of questions that we have when we're intimate with someone, when we're building a relation and all of that. And and I want to share with you that I got inspired to record this episode because the last 2 days, so today and yesterday, I had a conversation with two different friends, and funny enough, they were such similar conversations and with such similar topic, even though they're completely different persons, even different gender, and in different situations in their relations or whatever, but they both had like a real it was quite the same topic, which was they both didn't know if they wanted to be with the other person or not, or they had doubts. Of course they're still in the relation, but sometimes they feel like, oh, there's no future, or this is not the right person for me, and sometimes like, oh, but there should be, I don't know, like I should be with this person, I should give it a try, like whatever it is. And of course, I think you can use these stories because, of course, you don't know the people and they may not matter to you. But you can use these stories to see how they reflect within your life and how you can, yeah, if you resonate with what happened to them. And I'm not just going to talk about them, but I'm just going to talk about what I say, like beyond the ideas, right? Like what's happening behind their stories. And I am sure, or I hope that, yeah, you can take some value out of this. For me, since I had the conversations and since I've been processing these stories and the reflections that I gave them, yeah, it's became very very nice to see the impact in me as well, because I am in a lucky place where I am not doubting their relation or the connection that I'm having with someone. I am not in that place of doubt, but I was in that place of doubt for a long time too. And so I guess within my story, I found some inspiration and some way of dealing with my doubts in my relationship or connection or whatever it's called. So yeah, I hope that it inspires you, and let's see what happens. So yeah, let's see if I can recall some of the conversations, but in essence, I felt both persons were longing for clarity. I felt that they were struggling with having doubt in their system, with not making a decision, with not having that clarity, that, let's say, drive of like, okay, this is the situation, I want to be with this person or not. There was a longing for, like, they needed clarity in order to face the next stage of their life, and they were struggling a lot, even like losing sleep over this. Of course, quite normal. And yeah, the way that I know one of my friends, yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about people without using their names. But anyways, I just saw that this doubt has been constant in one of the person's like time. It's been like sometimes more alive, sometimes less alive. And when I was hearing this person, it was like, yeah, you're not telling me something different, But the different part is that you have been with doubts in your relationship for some time. And sometimes it becomes more alive, and sometimes it doesn't become more alive. And then in the other friend, it was kind of the same. Like the other friend was telling me, I don't have a full yes. Like I used to have a full yes, but I don't have a full yes anymore. Like my body's not giving me that information. So in case you haven't heard this expression before, I believe it's quite cool, or at least when I learned it, which is understanding how your body speaks to you and how sometimes your body gives you information, right, without the mind, and how your body gives you like a full yes, and that you can see in everyday life. And I'm not gonna go so much into detail on how this works. I'm sure you can figure it out. You're old enough, but yeah, maybe one day I can expand a little bit more in this topic in another episode. But I guess where to start with this, I think that some place that I want to start is to address the fear that is when there are doubts, and especially the fear of the unknown. We cannot know what's going to happen tomorrow. We cannot know the future at all. When there's doubts in a relation, when someone has doubts about their relation, there is sometimes probably fear of like the future. Is that, are you going to be okay without this person? Will you ever find someone as good? Or will you ever find someone better and you're settling for something very little? These kind of questions that we ask ourselves all the time, or maybe not all the time, or maybe we don't all this, but I'm sure that many people ask themselves whether they are with the right person or not, because maybe something is not really working in the relation, and maybe that something hasn't changed in a long time. And maybe you're longing for the other person to change, and that's, I already tell you, that's not a good approach, I believe. But yeah, anyways, maybe without going so much into that, it's normal to have doubts. It is such a normal thing. You can even have doubts about many topics in life, like not just a relationship, but also about work, also about, life path, mission, like many, many things in life. This is not new to us. And one of the thing about doubts, and I will spend more on this as long as the episode goes, it's to become aware of the voice in your head. And I say this every episode, but yeah, it is a big thing to become aware of the voice of your head. Like, what is the narrative that you are creating when you're having doubts in your relation? Are you creating a narrative about the future, not really knowing if this is the person of your life, if this is the person you can build the future with? It's a really hard answer to know. I wish we had like a crystal ball or something that we could ask, hey, am I with the right person? Is this gonna be the father or mother of my children? We just had that answer. That's life, it's about figuring it out in a way. But I guess the intention in a way for this episode is to how to deal with the doubts that you may have in your relation. Because doubts are normal, but what is really taxing and what really consumes a lot of energy, it's how you relate with the doubts that you have and how you relate with the unknown in a way. So again, like this fear of the unknown, I think it's important to recognize that it is normal to have fear of the future, because we don't know what can happen in the future, and you don't know if this is the right choice or the wrong choice, and you cannot go forward in time and look backs. But it is cool to look backwards at your relationship and also see the moments that you had doubts in the different parts of your relationship since you met that person in the middle, especially after the honeymoon phase, when you really start to meet the other person for real. Yeah, see how this played out in you, and especially also look at your past relationships when you had doubts as well. I'm sure there were moments, because if you have doubts in your relationship right now, this is probably not the first time this happens to you. This probably comes from way back, way back, way back, maybe even from childhood. If you want to check some of the other episodes about childhood wounds, I recommend you to do. But anyways, yeah, it's hard to tell when these doubts started to happen, because one may think it happened here or at this moment of the relation or in the beginning. But if you look back, this probably happened in your other relationships, if you had in your life, it's probably not new. And what this can tell you, it's like, it's not just about the other person. It is not just about of what's going on in the relation, but there's something for you to look inside. And I really don't want to say, because I think this would be super cliche, and it is to say, yeah, look inside of you and forget about the other. The blame is on you. Like, you are the one who needs to figure it out, to process yourself and all of this. Because I really think, that there is a lot of wisdom in actually getting some information to what do you want in your life, and is this what you want, or is this not doing well for you? And yeah, maybe we'll spend a little bit more on this later. We'll see. But yeah, some of the biggest fear I recognize in both of my friends was in a word they both mentioned, like, quite strongly and quite often. It was the word pattern. And yeah, it is so cool when one is in this sort of like self-development world and people know how to use this kind of language. Yeah, it was so cool to hear that they were so afraid of repeating an old pattern, and how much longing they had to sort of break the pattern. So what is, and of course, I don't know so much the patterns they had or anything like that. It was just something they expressed. But yeah, something really cool is this that I was just mentioned, things that repeat in the past. So yeah, one way is to when you have doubts, it's to actually recognize, your past relationships and how this has played out within you, because there's probably some repetition, and maybe you can reach the conclusion that you're having a pattern, that you're repeating a pattern, that something you did in the past, you're doing it again. Maybe you had doubts in the past and you quit that relation or you stopped that relation, and maybe that's happening to you again. And maybe over time you realize that, yeah, that you actually would have wanted to change the past, that it wasn't so bad, that relation. Maybe in the moment it seemed so bad, but afterwards you look back and it's like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. And again, this is really funny negotiations of the mind. I really want to invite you to, again, and I will repeat it many times, and I think I repeat it every video, but to become aware of the voice of your mind, because you are not the voice of your mind. Your mind is gonna negotiate no matter what. It's gonna be the best ever lawyer to present a case in front of the judge. Your mind, your ego is so good at doing that, to convince you of whatever the ego wants to convince you of. But in the end, it is just a story of the mind, how real it is. Are you really trusting the voice in your head all the time? Especially when you have been thinking about a topic for hours or days, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you're still thinking about the same story. Are you really going to trust that voice? Or are you in an endless loop of thought? If you're in an endless loop of thought, you're really going to trust yourself, what you're saying to yourself? Or are you already very intelligent and you're like, yeah, it's the voice of my head, I'm triggered because I cannot figure this situation out, and I'm gonna detach from the voice of my head and I'm gonna see, oh, I have a voice that is telling me some things, and I'm not gonna listen to that voice. Let's see what you do. Yeah, so about patterns, I wanted to share that what I believe, some of the reason why we have patterns and why they repeat themselves. Well, first of all, if you did something in the past, whether it was a good decision or not, but you survived that decision, you created, in a way, you created something in your body that is like, yeah, when I have a situation in front of me, when my partner does something wrong to me, or like whenever something happens, I made this decision. I said, maybe you stop being with that person, or you ask for distance, or whatever it is, and then that worked for you, that gave you what you needed at that time, and maybe that's a pattern that repeats itself. So yeah, I don't know if I explain myself so right, but I believe that when we survive a situation, whether it was the decision you wanted to make with your life, you're telling your body, it's like, yeah, that decision made me stay alive, and I survived that problem that I had, so I'm going to repeat that again. So I believe that in patterns, we also need to recognize the beauty of them, which is that patterns help you survive. I believe that, and this I'm not a scientist, I don't know where it came from, but I strongly believe that patterns help us survive. However, in patterns, there's also like an autopilot in a way. Like we're not making rational decisions. We're not really following what's best for us. We're just having a pattern that help us survive. But do you want to live in survival mode all the time or some of the time? Or do you want to live on more of a conscious life, more of on a conscious way? Because again, just recognize that if you feel that you're having a pattern in your relation, or that there's a pattern that has been repeating in the different relations you had or connections you had in your life, just be aware that if it's a pattern that is not healthy, that it's unhealthy, and that it's something that you want to change, just be aware that patterns are helping you to survive. But do you want to be in survival mode again? And maybe just to finish about the topic of patterns, yeah, there was such a strong longing in my friends to change their pattern, which this is beautiful. First of all, many people go through from relation to relation to relationship without realizing that they may be repeating a pattern. So the fact that someone becomes aware that they have a pattern, that is already like, wow, so forward into the process of healing and processing. Because first of all, we need to become aware. So if you are becoming aware, oh, there's something that has been repeating in different relationships in my life, this doubt that you may be having has been different, repeating all over your relations, and you recognize that that's a pattern that you have, that is beautiful. And now, if you have this longing in your body that you want to change the pattern, then that's also very beautiful. And I guess I will tell you what I think about that in a little bit, or I hope that I can really conclude this. It's not that I want to leave you hanging of like, oh yeah, I have a pattern. How do I change the pattern? Maybe it's not that easy, but I hope that towards the end of the episode, I'm able to address this. And like I say, I don't want to focus so much on patterns, because in this episode I want to focus on doubt, and like doubt in general, and pattern in relationship that can be maybe for a full episode in itself. But let's see, I hope I can nail it down somehow, somewhat. I'm flowing. All right. And now we come to the beautiful, beautiful topic that is so present in relationships. And I also saw in both of my friends. And I believe I have it so much inside of me. And that's why I'm so happy to talk about it, which is attachment wounds, and especially avoidant attachment. And again, this episode is not going to be about avoiding attachment all the time, but this is definitely worth a mention here. When someone has doubts in their relation, I'm not saying that all people that have doubts are avoidant, but of course, there's a big sign that there's some avoidant inside having those doubts. And yeah, I'm not so expert into anxious, and I only been anxious in a couple of relations, but I believe the anxious doesn't have so many doubts, right? Like the anxious feels like a full yes all the time, like please love me, please choose me. And the avoidance sometimes has doubts. And again, yeah, don't want to generalize that just because someone has doubts is avoidant, but an avoidant person has many ways of creating distance. For the avoidant, yeah, one of the main fears is the fear of closeness, the fear of intimacy, the fear of commitment, and all of that, right? And one of the mechanisms that they use to not be so close, to not face that fear, is to put some distance in between them. And one way of putting distance is with doubts. Doubts create distance. You may not want to get so close to that person because you're having doubts. And if you're having doubts, you don't want to get your heart broken. You don't want to get dumped. You don't want to get abandoned and all of that. So just recognize how beautiful the avoidant ego, the avoidant mind is, that has so many ways of creating distance between one person and another. And especially if one is very unaware of these things. And it's easy for me to speak about it because I live it in my bones. I have lived it in my bones, but also because, yeah, I see it in the others. I recognize quite well when someone is having an avoidant tendency because I lived it so well and I worked so much with it. So yeah, the avoiding attachment just plays such a big role in relationships. And if you are avoidant, yeah, you may identify with this. And this is another very fun fact that it occurred to me when I was writing this episode. And of course, I don't want to make such a generalization that affects everyone, but I believe that most avoidants will tell you that they are not avoidant. One of the favorite thing for an avoidant to say, especially an avoidant that has been working on themselves, or an avoidant that is really into self-development, it's really into, being conscious about themselves, feels it's a good person and all of that. If that person is an avoidant, they're gonna be like, yeah, I'm not avoiding. I used to be avoidant, but I'm not avoiding anymore. Yeah, I worked on myself. I'm not avoidant. That conversation. We all are avoidant in one way or another. It doesn't matter if one is anxious or avoidant. We all have that. It might be more alive or it might be less alive. There's no universal category of everyone is avoiding, everyone is anxious, everyone is secure, like whatever it is. We just have different parts. So it's beautiful to recognize the avoidant parts of us. And in a way, having doubts, it's avoiding to commit to that person. It's avoiding to choose that person. It's avoiding something in their relation. That's why doubts come. And again, also another thing about the avoidant is that there is so much, I would say, because in yeah, I think I spoke about this in other episodes, that I had like a heartbreaking time the last year, and then it took me some time to actually do the inner work and all of that and get over this person. And in that case, I was very anxious. I was the anxious one, and I've been avoiding my whole life. So maybe with this last part, to close that point about the avoidant, is yeah, recognize the avoidant in you. This is also beautiful, that someone may have doubts in their relation and not know, and all of that we've been talking about. And yeah, and these little things, these little pieces of knowledge that I gave you, just recognize what applies to you. Do you have a bit of an avoidant inside on you when you're having doubts? Is this coming from an avoidant? Is the avoidant feeding the story of doubts? And some ways of recognizing this is like, if you read the attachment book, I'm not sure what's the name, but I'm sure that you put attachment book in Google or whatever, you're going to find it. Yeah, one of the things that they say is different symptoms like the phantom X is another part of the avoidance, which is like, and it happened to my friend because one of them was saying like, yeah, I used to have this relation and it was so good and this and that. It's like they idealize the exes, the when someone is in the avoidant. And they were so good and all of this, right? But if you were to ask this person when they were there, they probably were not having a good time. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to go so deep into the avoidant. Just if it resonates with you, if you're having doubts in your relation or a friend's having doubts, just remind them that there might be an avoidance side inside of them. And what is it saying? What is it telling? Because that voice, that story, which, like I say, it's not that someone who has doubt in their relation, it's really bad and we should avoid doubts. And in the next point, I will tell you exactly the opposite. We should allow doubts. But yeah, it's like looking that the ego is creating a whole story, and it is normal. You meet the person, you are with the person for some time, you fall in love. And then after the honeymoon phase, you start questioning yourself. Is this the person, the right person for me? Do you want to be with this person for the rest of your life? Is this person having some red flags that you don't want to follow, things you cannot tolerate, things that you really like? You're going to put all of that into perspective, and you're going to think about that throughout your relation. Probably every relation in this world thinks about that, maybe not every day, but many times throughout their relation. So yeah, because that's so normal, just recognize in which parts of the story belong to what. Is this part belonging to the void and inside of you? And that's why you're having doubts. Is this other part belonging to the pattern that you have been creating in other relations? And that's why you have doubts. This part belonging to the adult, this part belonging to your inner wisdom. There's also beauty in that story, in having doubts, because something in your body is telling you, hey, look at this. This is not as simple as it seems, and you will find some inner wisdom within you. And we'll talk in the end about the inner wisdom a little bit. So, yeah, one of the things that I recognize is that when my friends were telling me about their story and I was seeing that they were struggling a lot with their doubts, they had a big longing to change. They wanted to not be in doubt. They wanted to be in a full yes. They wanted to have clarity. And I wish we had, like in Matrix, a red pill or a blue pill. I don't know which pill does what. That we could just eat the pill and then we are enlightened and we know the answer and we don't have doubts anymore. This is the issue that I see in someone having doubts. It's the resistance of having doubts. You are resisting the doubt, and that's why the doubt is not disappearing, because you are not allowing doubt. And I give you another second to process this one. One of the most beautiful words you can incorporate into your life, into your vocabulary, is the word allow. You may go through life in so many different aspects, but when you are not accepting what life is bringing you right now, you are close to life. You are resisting what life is bringing you. So in this case, when you have doubts in your relation, when my friends had doubts in their relation, what they were not aware of is that they were resisting the doubt. They were like, I don't want to have doubts. Ew. Doubts are beautiful. This is the thing. It's not about demonizing doubts and demonizing unclarity. It is beautiful to long for clarity, to long for clear answers, to know if you're with the right person, if this is your life partner or not. Super beautiful. But please do not resist the doubt. Allow the doubt. And it is as simple, and life is so simple. I say it all the time. You don't need to be meditating in the Himalayas for 20 years to reach enlightenment. It is so simple to sit with yourself. When you hear the monkey mind, when you hear the story playing out, you don't know if you want to be with this person or not, la 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 la, when you hear the story. Instead of being like, oh my God, I'm in the story again. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Beautiful. Separate yourself from the story a little bit and observe yourself and tell to yourself, huh, I'm having a story again. You are having a story. And it is just a story without any answer. Those doubts are just stories of the mind. You are playing a fantasy role, a movie inside of your head. You're playing the future in your mind. You are thinking that you need to have an answer if this is the right person for you in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, if this is the right father, the right mother for your children. All fantasies, all fantasies of the mind. And that's the beautiful part. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that it's not about suppressing the doubt. I'm not going to tell you 10 ways of finding clarity in your relation. No, I will tell you 10 ways of allowing doubt and becoming friends with the doubt inside of you, becoming friends with your ego, with the voice in your head. That's the key, my friend. It's so simple. Just accept that you have doubts and you don't need to do anything else. Just be with it. It's like, huh? I'm having doubts again. Share it with your partner. How beautiful would that be if your partner is also in this thing of inner world and they know how to hold themselves? How beautiful would it be to sit down with your partner? It's like, hey, I'm struggling so much because I have doubts. I don't know if I want to be with you or not. And that can be very triggering to the other person, but what a beautiful journey. When you share that, you also expose yourself. You also create closeness and connection. And again, why would you hide anything from your partner? If you need to hide some things from your partner, don't be with that person. Or you're not being yourself. Being yourself is just showing every part of you. I really recommend that to you. So yeah, I got super inspired by that. Maybe I was a little bit hit up. I'm trying to bring it down again. And yeah, I kind of want to nail it down or round it up a little bit, this concept of like accepting what is in a way. So I will try to use different words. I found a lot of inspiration in this. Also sharing with your partner what's going on inside of you. I believe this is a beautiful practice to do. Maybe I can continue with telling you my story a little bit with when I had doubts in this relation that I was having. Um, yeah, or maybe I tell you the thing is like I feel like need to expose all the concepts in a way that are playing different roles, and then in the end I'll tell you about my story and how I dealt with it and how I allowed to have doubts in myself and how I dealt with them in a way and how they disappeared. Because doubts are not here forever. Nothing is here forever, right? Everything disappears at some point. And maybe this brings me back to the present moment. Something as well that you may want to incorporate in your process, in your relation, in your doubts, is that nothing is forever. Is that you may be having doubt right now. But there are moments in your relation that you don't have doubts, that you are very sure that this is the right person for you or that this is working very well for you. And then another time you have doubts and you are in that state. It's the same as sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're unhappy, sometimes you are, different ways. So, in a way, this is also an inspiration for you to stop demonizing having doubts or stop demonizing not having clarity and how you can be with that, how you can be with the unknown. It's also recognizing that there are different times, even during the same day. Nothing stays the same. A river is not the same all the time. The water that is here is not the same water that is here, and the river is always flowing, and life is like this. In the present moment, you may be having a story, and the story is saying, oh yeah, this person is not good because this, and that. And then 2 days later, you had really wonderful time with this partner of yours or this connection. And then 2 days later, you're in a very different state. It's like, oh, this is definitely the right person, this and that, this and that. And then 2 days later, you might be on the other side. But again, recognize what is in the present moment. To accept the doubt, it's another way of to allow the doubts, to make friends of the doubts and the voice in your head. It's recognizing what is present right now, and nothing is forever. If you have been heartbroken, you may remember that you probably thought that was going to last forever. And if you're not heartbroken anymore, that's not, that's also gone. Everything is gone at some point. Okay, maybe I stop with that part of like, which I believe is the most important. Please do it, allow it. And not just allow doubt, allow everything in your life. But most importantly, allow when you cannot allow. Which in this case, in most of the times, when someone has doubts in the relation or whatever, the problem is not really the doubts. The problem is that they are not allowing the doubts, and they are not allowing that they're not allowing the doubts. That is, I don't know if you could get that one, but in a way, it's this is what I believe. It's like becoming aware that you have resistance and saying yes. Yeah, I'm having resistance to not having clarity. I don't like that. Wonderful. Can you allow that? Beautiful. If you can find the allowance in the non-allowance, you are gonna find a lot of peace of mind, my friend, because it doesn't matter how many hours, how much energy you spend in that story of yours of figuring out whether you should be with that person or not. Yeah, good luck with the sleeping and good luck with everything. You're living a story in your mind. You forgot to breathe. You forgot to look at the sky. You forgot to work out, to eat well, because you're in the story all the time. Dude, give yourself a break. You're not gonna figure it out one story after 10 minutes. That story is gonna be there forever. Just let it be and enjoy your day. There are other things to do than thinking about that all the time. All right. So I'm almost getting closer to the end. This is, I hope, the last point with doubts. we've been in this journey of analyzing like the patterns, doubts, present moment, allowing doubts, like avoidant attachment, like all these things. Now we come to another of the gems of doubts, which is the inner child. My friend, we all have an inner child. If you follow this channel, you probably know a lot about it. If you don't, I recommend you to watch some other things if you're inspired. But I would just say to you that we all have an inner child inside of us. It doesn't matter how much inner work you've done, for how many years, we all have the inner child. And the inner child has very sneaky ways of becoming alive. And it is so beautiful. We don't want to suppress the inner child. We just want to allow the inner child, like we allow the doubts. And part of the inner child, or when I was connecting with this idea, because I gave them both the same reflection. They were telling me their doubts, and I didn't really go so much into the story of the doubt, but just the energy of having doubts. And the reflection that I was giving them is like, okay, what part of that doubts of that story that you're having belongs to the inner child? Because, my friend, the inner child inside of us has a lot of doubts about everything, because the inner child doesn't know about the future. The inner child's freaking out all the time, and the inner child has a lot of doubts. So when I see someone having doubts, I take a step back and I'm like, oof, that sounds a lot like inner child. And why do I say this? And it's not about demonizing the inner child, but because when someone is in their adult self, when you are in your inner father, your inner mother, your adult self, feeling so empowered, do you have doubts? I am not too sure. When I think about that for myself, when I am in my power, in my adult self, in my inner child is well held, life is super easy. There are no doubts. I know what to do. And if there are doubts, they are super welcome. They're okay. It's like, yeah, I don't know what to do with that, but I'm not worried about that. I'm not giving time to that story, because that's an inner child story. That's an ego story. The ego wants to be in the story all the time, take you away from presence. The adult self, the inner wisdom that I mentioned before, the adult self has inner wisdom. Your adult self, however old you are, when you are in that adult energy, when you're holding your inner child, you don't have doubts. And if you do, they're okay. They don't take much time and energy from you. You know what to do. Your adult self knows. And here's the thing. When you are in the story, when you're in the inner child, you are not in your adult self. So don't be like, okay, I'm going to meditate for 3 minutes and I'm going to connect with my adult self, and my adult self is going to give me the answer and it's going to solve all the doubt and I'm going to get all the clarity in the world. Yes, good luck with that. No, it doesn't work like that. It is little by little, little by little. I believe that with allowing the doubt, with allowing that energy inside of you, with allowing the unknown, yes, you don't know if you want to be with that person or not. You don't know if that's the right person for you. Cool. Allow the doubt. Yeah, you're having doubts. Beautiful. What a nice story. And the story comes again. It's like, yeah, what an interesting story. Like Eckhart Tolle says. Um, and cool and cool and cool. And by allowing it, and connecting with that mature energy inside of you, the mature energy that knows how to hold yourself, there, my friend, is where you will find the clarity. So yeah, there's clarity somewhere. But the clarity is not about pushing the doubt away and finding the answer. The clarity is like, can you hold your inner child? The inner child that has fear of commitment, the inner child that has fear of intimacy, that has fear of connection, that has fear of getting abandoned, getting heartbroken, getting so close and then separating. Yes, the inner child never wanted to separate from their parents. Of course, the inner child needed their parents. But my friend, you're not a child anymore. You're an adult. And when the inner child's freaking out, you know how to hold yourself. And if you don't, you will learn. Just keep following me. I'm sure that with time you will learn how to do it. or go to therapy or whatever it is. So yeah, I hope that you got the point. There's some inner child part when you have doubts. Normally, the inner child, the child doesn't know what to do. Mama, Papa, what can I do? What can I do? Yes, there's some of that. There's some of that when you are playing that story inside of you. Or maybe not, but I think there is. Yeah, and just reading the notes. The other one from the inner child, and that I saw it so clear in them, is that the inner child or the child is impatient. The inner child wants the answer right away because the inner child, when they have doubts, they don't know how to deal with it because the child doesn't have the tools to deal with the doubt, and the child needs the adult to come to soothe themselves. So this is this is a huge sign when you are like, I want the answer. I need clarity. I need to know if this is the right person or not. Yes, that's a beautiful sign to know that you're in your inner child and that you're very far away from your adult self, because the adult would say something like, yeah, I have no idea if I want to be with this person. I have doubts. This person ticks these boxes and this one's is a big no. Yeah, I don't know what to do for sure. But the adult self is kind of like, yeah, sure, okay. I still gotta go to work tomorrow. I still gonna do meditation. I will be with it. I will make a decision. Maybe the adult self says, I'll make a decision in 2 weeks. I'll give this person an ultimatum. Or I will sit down and have a conversation, an adult conversation with this person. What is working? What is not working? Are you having those conversations with your partner? Are you expressing the doubts? Are you clearing things out? Are you getting the information that you need in order to make a conscious, mature, rational decision? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure in your story. I'm not sure in your life. I'm not sure in my friends. But again, all this, or my biggest wish, is to just give different tools, different inspiration, and maybe they connect with that inner father, inner mother inside of them. Maybe they can hold their inner child when the inner child has doubts, and be mature. Because I really believe that when someone is in their adult self, wisdom comes, and we all have inner wisdom. I am not here to tell you what to do with your life. You already know. And please, that would be great if everyone knew. But yeah, everyone knows in a way. And you just need to connect with that part of you, which is the mature part of you. And you will find the answers that you're looking for. Just give it time. The adult doesn't quit the job when they feel overwhelmed. That's the little kid. It's like, I quit. I walk away. Cannot hold myself when I get triggered. Yeah, that's the little kid. The adult self is like, yeah, I'm going to give it 1 more year. I'm going to give it 6 more months. And if this job is not working for me, I'm going to quit. Well, take the word job and substitute it for relation. Same shit. Your adult self knows what to do. And the adult self is patient. The inner child wants the answer right away. The adult self is patient, and it also sets boundaries to the children. It sets boundaries. You can play until 8. At 9, you're in bed. Do that with your inner child. You can play the story for an hour, and now you're not going to play the story anymore. We're going to do something else. You're going to meditate. You're going to do yoga. You're going to breathe. Whatever it is. Just develop that relation between your adult and your inner child. It's going to help you a lot. Okay, and just to finish, like I said, I'm going to tell you my personal story on how I dealt with this. It's beautiful. It's not that I praise on things I don't do for myself, and sometimes I do, and it doesn't matter. But in my case, and it happens that doubts come and go, come and go. But when I was with this person, especially in the beginning, I was like, I was struggling with that. And I still struggle with that. I don't know if this is the right person for me for the rest of my life. I don't know if this is going to be the mother of my children. Who knows? But what happened in me, and when I was connecting with these different parts inside of me, and I didn't do all this analysis, but some of this, it came naturally, I guess, of subconsciously, was that, yeah, again, these are the steps that I did in a way. I was like, oh my God, I have a lot of doubts. And I was seeing that those doubts first came from my avoidant. It came that, yeah, doubts create separation. I don't need to commit to this person. I can keep the door open. avoidance, they love to keep the door open in case this doesn't work. They can leave, keep that door open. Yes, sure. But I, for myself, decided some years ago that I want to work on my avoidant and I want to become secure. And I don't want the avoidant inside of me to take all the decisions. I just giving you some of these signs that came to me. It's like, yep, I see my avoidant that wants to run away and is having doubts. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to stay in this and we're going to see what happens. Very mature, very from the adult. Then, with talking about the pattern, same thing. I've been having a pattern, an avoidant pattern that has been repeating for so many years, and this and that and this and that. I am aware of the pattern and I want to break the pattern. How do I do it? When I get triggered, when I have doubts and all this, well, I stay with it. And if the doubts persist for a long time, if it's something like really profound, really something very, very important, I will know that because my inner wisdom will tell me. But these little doubts were very little kids' doubts. And I didn't know how to be with myself. So all this happens, and I was processing all of this we had like a time apart. And then, I was with it. I was sharing with friends and this and that. And every time I shared, I recognize when my inner child is present and when it's not. And like I say, when I was in my adult self, everything was simple. Everything was easy. So there was no problem. And in the end, what I decided to do is that the story was so big and it already created so much energy inside of me that I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down with her and I'm going to tell her, hey, I had doubts. And I did that. And you know what happened? The other person just held space, didn't take anything personal, which is wonderful. And my doubts disappeared because I realized, and my inner wisdom realized, like, yeah, this just comes from the past, from probably mother, father wounds, something around there. Yeah, these doubts are not real doubts. And that was my situation. And again, in 3 months, maybe that changes. And maybe I have real doubts. Like I say, this is not about breaking from the doubts or telling you how to find clarity or whatever it is. I'm sure that you got something out of this. If you stayed this long or if you heard to the full story, I'm sure you got something out of it. The same way I also got something out of it. So yeah, I believe I feel complete in a way. Or maybe not. I give you the last one. Something that I believe it's really important, which is also to believe in something greater in life. It's to believe in life. If you are able to get to this point of like really allowing the doubts inside of you, of connecting to, of holding your inner child who has a lot of the doubts and just being with the inner child and making that peace. If you can get there, you can also tell yourself another very soothing thing, which is once you allow the doubts, life will guide you. You don't need to figure anything out. Life will guide you. It is as simple as that. And it might sound very hippie, very spiritual, but I believe it is this way because right now you may be having doubts. Then you hold yourself and you don't know the answer of the future. You don't know if you should be with this person or not. But let me tell you, the more present you are, the more open you are to the answers of life. And life speaks loud and clear. And it speaks to your adult self, to your inner wisdom. You already know it. You already know it. The only problem that is happening is that you're not present. You're not present with it. Just become present with yourself and with your doubts and wait for life to guide you because life is constantly guiding us. We're just not present enough to be aware of the signs that life is giving us. So yeah, relax, surrender, allow, and be patient. The answer will come little by little. Maybe it won't be like an aha moment. You wake up one day, it's like, I know the answer. It will be little by little, most of the case. But anyways, thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate your courage to listen to this weird guy for such a long time. I appreciate your attention. I really celebrate you. If I brought you some value or if you like this or whatever it is, you can support me very easily. You can subscribe, you can like this episode, you can comment. You can ask me any question. I will really appreciate if, yeah, to read people when they have things. Maybe I get inspired to do another episode based on your story. We will see. But yeah, thank you so much again. And like usual, I also thank to myself for sitting down here today, for recording this very fun, exciting episode that it was, yeah, it has been very, very fun to be with this and to, yeah, overcome the resistance of recording and all of this. So yeah, I am very happy of this episode 9, and I hope that, yeah, you also enjoyed the same way that I enjoyed. Thank you so much, and see you next time, perhaps. And remember to take a breath. That's all you need for life. Take care, spend. And if you even want it better, take a second breath. Very easy. Right now, wherever you are, I'm sure you can take a breath. Do that for yourself, for your life. That's all you need. You don't need much more. Thank you. Let's go.